tune from the late 90s. Resilience has been a very key ingredient for its success.
For our keynote speaker, we have a super interesting leader who I think is a corporate monk. Someone who selflessly sharing his messages, learnings, touching so many lives across the globe with what he does. So, dear audience, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Nitin Dua, the co-founder, managing director at Hilfey Tech. They partner with CEOs and leaders of health, SaaS, and insurance organizations for revenue growth and go-to-market strategies in the US, India, and Middle East. Nitin sir is also a health coach who's passionate about empowering us all to work towards our health by advocating health awareness via his YouTube channel, Health with Nitin Dua, which provides support for mental health, diabetes, lifestyle issues, and wholistic entitled preventive. He's been in leadership roles at venture-backed health companies such as Twin Health, participated in $100 million revenue growth journeys at Innovator. It is my pleasure to invite Mr.
Thank you so much, Anvi, for such a warm welcome and such kind words. Thank you, Anjali, and thank you to my family who's here, and thank you to each one of you. Your presence means a lot to me. Thank you. All right, so now coming to the topic, resilience. I gathered some definitions from the dictionary to start with. What does resilience really mean? I'm going to just read it out to you here. So the dictionary says resilience is an ability to recover from or adjust easily from tough situations or crisis. And if I may add, enrich oneself, learning from failures, learning from mistakes along the way. And, any mistakes that I'm going to make or I've already made is in the name of resilience today. Yeah. And by the way, we have a ritual now at home in my family. My wife is here, my daughter is here, my dad is here. Every time I actually make a big failure or a small failure, I actually dance to which I've created for myself as some of you might recognize this tune, a tune from the late 90s. So every time I make a failure or she makes a failure or my daughter does something, I remember myself to dance to that tune just to celebrate that failure. So I'm just going to start by saying we got to enjoy it. And let's read out the American Psychological Association's definition of that. They say resilience, which in Hindi, for the Hindi audience, Pratirod Shamta, Lachilapan, that's the term that's used, is the process or and outcomes of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. Well, that feels like a mouthful, yeah, but this is what the definition says. Now, an important thing that I want to highlight is we're talking about resilience for the entire next 3 hours. Let's spend, a few seconds on why this matters. Why resilience? Why are we talking about this? Because in my experience over the last 7 years in corporate as well, or anything else that meaningful that I've done in life so far, I have seen when you actually have the why sorted, there's a very different drive in pursuit of what and how. Because that follows once your why is sorted. And, I've had the privilege of working with different mentors throughout my life at global levels. And one of my mentors shared this, and I echoed his sentiment here. What the world needs today, in terms of the biggest change, is a psychological change, especially in today's world and today's context. So this is why resilience matters, right? And we're going to just spend some time now to look into how it matters for different people in different contexts. So Anvi made an introduction to me on the business side. I do spend a lot of time on the business side, and I look for people where I can also learn from and what they've done towards resilience and how they look at resilience. So this gentleman right here is, some of you might recognize, his name is Jensen Huang, and he's the CEO of NVIDIA. NVIDIA today is by market capitalization, which means how much market share. It's around $2.8 trillion last I checked. The numbers keeps on changing, but they are the third largest company in the world by market capitalization, just behind Microsoft and Apple. They are above the parent company of Google. So that's the size of the company. And by the way, this gentleman himself shared multiple times that NVIDIA, in these last few decades has gone nearly bankrupt, just like Tesla has and others, right? And they have shown resiliency to come, with the character they have, and that's the model challenge they're driving towards. But I would draw your attention towards what he's been speaking about resilience in the context of success. So he's given a speech, as some of you shared here. Anvi shared that I did my lecture engineering at Stanford. So Jensen was giving a speech to this kind of audience, to Stanford audience, and he's speaking to a panelist who asks him, what makes you successful? And one of the key things that he brings out is, according to him, resilience has been a very key ingredient for his success. And it doesn't come easy.
I think one of my great advantages is that I have very low expectations. And I mean that. Most of the Stanford graduates have very high expectations. You deserve to have high expectations because you came from a great school. You were very successful. You're at the top of your class. Obviously, you were able to pay for tuition. And then you're graduating from one of the finest institutions on the planet. You're surrounded by other kids that are just incredible. You naturally have very high expectations. People with very high expectations have very low resilience. And unfortunately, resilience matters in success. I don't know how to teach it to you except for I hope suffering happens to you.
But one of the ways that he's experienced in his life is to actually experience the pain and struggle and the suffering. And what you build as a result of that is an outcome of the process that you've gone through. And he does it, and he says it in a way that it brings a great joy, even in his company too, not just personally for himself, but also for NVIDIA as a company. So it just doesn't end on that side. This is the business side of the story, but you take in other fields of life. This gentleman right here, to me, he really personifies the face of resilience. This is Rahul Dravid. For those of you who are not aware of him yet, I've seen him play cricket, coach for the last 3 decades. And if anybody else deserves more than the World Cup, in his hand, for me, it is Rahul Dravid and Virat Kohli, because they have really personified the grit. They've gone through so many challenges, so many struggles, so many failures, and come out thriving every single time. He didn't get what he deserves as a player, but he's getting what he deserves as a coach. So, and mind you, it just doesn't limit at the coach. He's actually a terrific human, in my view. So, there's no prize for it yet, but in my eyes, he tops up the prize for that too. Now, let's listen to what somebody like him has to talk about resilience and other people that he coaches. And, he coaches the Indian team. Virat Kohli is a stellar player, as many of you know. When he's asked what makes people like Virat Kohli rule the game, he says, skill-wise, there are many such people who actually have similar skills like Virat Kohli. But when you start going to the next level of orbit, when you start going above and above and higher, what really begins to matter most is the mental side of the game. How do you handle pressure? How do you handle success? How do you handle failures? How do you handle stress? All this becomes so much more important. And that's why we're talking about this right now. And we see, you pick up any of the field, I can go on and pick up, Roger Federer, you hear him, he talks similar language to Cristiano Ronaldo. You pick any elite player in their field, they would have gone through some level of struggling, pain, and resilience to build up the character they have today. And that's a very common pattern. I used to do cognitive AI at Stanford, so a lot of work on pattern recognition. This is a very clear pattern. I don't need to look for data to actually simulate the model. It's right in front of our eyes. Now, how does all of this translate to our lives, right? So, they are top of the game today. How do we bring this back to our lives? Let me allow you to take you through a journey of this boy. He's born limitless, like each one of you sitting in this room. And he has this sparkly, beautiful eyes that you can see on the left. And he just personifies joy. And he's had beautiful upbringing, thanks to a beautiful set of parents. And, just like all of us, when we start our life, We try to walk and we fall down, we get up, we fall down, we get up, we fall down, and we keep trying and trying and trying. And we don't give up, right? I mean, eventually we all end up learning to walk. He falls down, he gets up, he reflects what needs to be done, figures it out, and keeps moving. So this is like kids like all of us enjoying in the rain, learning to walk. And thanks to his beautiful family and honorable father as well, where he could really, just by in the presence of his father and his family, he could actually absorb a lot of it along the way, with success, with failures, and everything that come along the way. Now, the stage that we are in, he goes through the journey of preparing for competitive exams and a bunch of other things in the process. So, around the corner of school time finishing up, preparing for college, prepares for IITs, goes for a rigorous preparation for IITs. On the day of the exam, he's prepared quite well, but again, the day can go anyway, right? Didn't go as per his preparation. And he feels when the results come out, it's a big emotional outburst, but not just for him, but also for his family, because they've seen him, how much effort he's putting in. And he's put in a lot of his time and effort and sincerity towards it. But yeah, when there is pain that comes with it, there's a lot of struggle that came with it. In that moment, it was actually a lot of crying and a lot of emotional outbursts. Just thinking what has really happened? I mean, you've given so much time to this and it's not worked out the way it's envisioned. In retrospect, looking back at it, it actually set him up for many of the beautiful things that are going to follow, right? One of them is to really enjoy the joy and exposure that he got at Stanford and to be around such amazing people that he could learn a lot from. So this can continue in multiple instances, but I'm just, in the interest of time, take to the next level. Continues on the corporate professional side, goes on to work for different companies, gets surrounded by amazing top talent, collaborates with them, gets an opportunity to work at PwC, gets an opportunity to work with Innovator, build it out to 100 million with the folks, Twin Health, and many other such amazing companies, gets on to do CXO roles. So life, beautiful. I mean, there are challenges, you keep learning from it. But again, comes one day where everything is going quite good, and he finds a vision where he wants to work to solve people's happiness and health. And he finds such a vision on that. Joins the team immediately in a leadership role, right? Goes on to work with them. The team really likes what he's doing and he's enjoying, right? And in a moment, the team recognizes what he's doing and they start calling him Sachin Tendulkar of the team in the way the performance is going. And he doesn't realize that he's fallen in love with the vision of making people healthier and happier. But life has other plans, right? It keeps going. We have COVID coming in. And you may not have seen a lot of numbers. I mean, I create content and awareness on YouTube, so I posted some numbers. Anxiety depression went up by 26%, 28% just in COVID year alone, right? So in that backdrop, COVID hits across the globe, as we all know. I mean, we've seen COVID, what drama it had brought to our lives. And it brings drama to the business, it brings drama to the market, and everything starts to tank. It starts to come down. While everything is going smooth, enjoying the ride, and one fine day, despite, like I said, he called us Sachin Tendulkar in the team, he and a few other team members, many leaders in the company are asked, it's time to step down. Because we are doing so well as a company, the market isn't doing well, and the performance is dipping, right? So this, to the core, really shatters his emotions. And he goes on to actually, disbelief that this is actually really happening because you're giving yourself to it, you believe in what you're doing, and still this is happening to you. And it goes on to a downward spiral where he starts to do a lot of negative self-talk. By the way, if you haven't figured this out, this is myself a few years ago. I thought because the introduction is making this very obvious, but this is myself a few years ago. And this is very real, right? Despite you lining up for everything, and you have any belief, it can still shake you up. And it shook me up, and it got me into a negative spiral, self-thinking in a negative doubt cycle. And, you have anxiety, you have stress, you have depressive thoughts that, am I good enough? Am I doing the right things? What's really happening here? and those kind of feelings and emotions, right? But the good thing is, the suffering, and it brought a lot of suffering and pain in that moment. There's no denying of the fact. But what it did after a few days of settling down, especially with the support system and the grace of the God, and support system in family, support system in my father, my wife, my kids, professional help, it really settled down, what needed to settle down in terms of emotions and really get back up on the joy ride, which is where I am right now today. And frankly, I would also attribute something that I'll talk about and we all experience today. Meditation has been a game changer in my life so far. I have been doing meditation for several years now, even before this instance. And actually, I could, besides all the other things I mentioned, I feel that was one key that helped me to become aware that this is not the Nitin that I've known all these years. In that moment, I had that awareness after setting my emotion that this is not who I have been and this is not who I'm going to be. And I'm going to let this not take me over. I'm going to persist. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to be resilient and I'm going to see it through with having the right faith without necessarily having the ego around it. You have to settle on the ego as well. So, and again, the grace of God, the support system is paramount, and asking for help is paramount. So going through that journey and settling it actually ended up coming out from suffering to joy. And one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, he says, what if life is always happening for you and not to you? What if this was a gift? When you realize the meaning of it, it actually makes your life even more beautiful than it was. In that moment, no denying the fact that it's excruciating pain and suffering. But once you're past that and you are able to derive meaning out of it, it can be truly a blessing and a gift. That's how I look at it. In fact, it has shaped my perspective very recently. If it wasn't for this incident, I don't think this kind of talk was happening, at least on it, right? Now, what I've taken away from what I've shared with you, going through that pain and suffering, which is what Jensen Huang also mentioned, that I wish this happens to you. And when I looked at a video, I was like, what is he saying? Is this what he really wants for people? But frankly, in my opinion, going through that feelings, I kind of see where he's coming from. And few more takeaways besides the character that it ends up to building, few more things that I know because of doing what I've been doing, they really help you not to the extent of going to that suffering and pain, hopefully. And the first one on that is to really prioritize your health and well-being. As Anvi mentioned, I create a lot of content now around awareness of this. And I've created a framework called Holistic and Preventive Health, which has multiple dimensions, starting from physical health. We got a flavor of that through the yoga and the breath work that we started with, the practice that we did today. And then there's mental health, there's social health, there is nutrition, there is sleep, there is emotional health, there is work health, there is financial health, there's a whole gamut there. And I try to talk about spreading events on that. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on. And the other thing I'm going to say from my experience is the game changer nature of meditation. So that's one takeaway I want to share with this audience, is to meditate. Figure out which way works for you. What we did, by the way, today is inspired from Anapana and Vipassana, which is a silent form of meditation. But there are so many ways. In fact, enjoying music could be meditation if you do it in that way. It's basically bringing you in that moment, and then it unlocks so many more things for you once you practice it. Okay. So this is, by the way, not just me. You talk to Oprah Winfrey, you talk to Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, you speak to Virat Kohli, they're all doing this, by the way. So there is some merit in this, and especially if you start practicing it yourself, you won't have to listen to me to say the order of magnitude brings to life. So my request to you would be, your experience, if you haven't done it before and you got a chance to do it today, please embrace that in your life. That's one thing that if you don't take anything else, let's start with that. Embracing challenges and making mistakes. By the way, we learn so much. Of course, I'm kind of delivering a theoretical message right now, or you can read some books, that delivers certain level of learning. Then you learn by actually doing it. But where you really learn is by making those mistakes. And you don't stop there. You actually reflect on those mistakes and you learn beyond that. And hopefully not make the same mistake over and over. Make new mistakes. but most importantly, embrace the challenges that come with it. It's a beautiful slide that I borrowed from the designer. And you were talking about seeking help, right? Like I shared in my instance, like we have so many other instances, and I know like the panel is going to speak about that, so I'm going to restrict myself. But really going out and seeking for help when you see fit. And if you are not clear, go seek help. It's a sign of strength and not weakness. Next, I'm going to say, and this is just the last 3 slides, you're going to keep it short in the interest of time. So embrace a growth mindset. What do I mean by that? So from a fixed mindset point of view, which you see on the left, it's kind of locked in. You're not open to new ideas. You try something and you fail, and you feel that, this is the end of my capability and limitation. I'm not going to try it because I keep failing. The other outlook to look at it is, maybe yes, I have failed right now. Maybe I've not figured this out just yet. But I have belief in my capabilities and talent, and I'm going to see it through. That's where it's coming from, growth mindset. And you look at it from an opportunity lens and not necessarily a limitation. And secondly, there's a big aspect of the power of yet. Carol Dweck, who's a very famous psychologist, also Stanford colleague, talks heavily about growth mindset. So I'm going to just give you some food for thought looking at the power of yet. You may not have just done it, but this just yet. You can figure this out with the belief and the capabilities. Now, this message I want to bring to you of sabr, which is patience, right? Let me just read out this message. I'm quoting the mother here from Orwell. This is: one must find one's own certitude within oneself. Keep it in spite of everything, and go one's way, whatever the cost, to the very end, and the victory is enduring. And she uses the examples of flowers in nature. You look at this flower, the lotus flower that's blossoming right there. Give it time. It's growing in the mud, right? And if you look at how beautiful the resilience of a flower is and the nature around is, you can learn so much. There's so much wisdom out there just in the flowers itself, in terms of patience, in terms of giving it time, in terms of being it settled. So I hope you take something from it. I hope you take something from the message. And I know it's difficult, especially in today's time, the way we are set up in our system, everything is on demand. You tap something and it's right in front of you. We are designing, I'm a big technologist myself. I see it has a place, but not in everything, especially anything worthwhile. You look at anything, we are talking about health, look at relationships, look at wealth, look at anything meaningful. Anything worthwhile typically does not come easy. You can't really give it the time. So, have the sabr. Finally, I can keep going in hearing, but I'm going to restrict to gratitude mindset, gratitude attitude. And that's where we started. Frankly, you start with the gratitude in divinity. And when I say thank you to each one of you, and I said in your presence, I really go down to the gratitude for divinity of all of you. And it's genuinely coming from heart as a thank you for your presence here. And thank you for listening in. If you want to know more about any of this, if this is of interest to you and you want to know more in terms of what is my life, because I thought the importance of why, once that's sorted out, everything else just kind of starts to flourish at a different tangent. I've spoken about that for myself. There's my YouTube channel, Hilfey Tech. We're also on Instagram now. That's the link right there. And then, you can, if you have questions, I don't know, so certainly stick around, you can ask me today. But if you have questions that you want to ask separately later on, I have my email as well. And just want to give you a glimpse of, are you keen to improve your health holistically? Are you affected by obesity, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes? So this is basically type 2 diabetes, mental health, and awareness and holistic health. But you can really go and check it out for yourself if that is of interest to you. I just want to give you a flavor of it. With that, I want to thank you all of you again, Anjali especially, and Anvi for putting this together, because it's a very important theme. And I really look forward to listening to each of our panelists and the interaction that we're going to have. It really opens up the canvas for this kind of discussion. And I hope there is more such discussion that happens throughout the country, because all of us need it at a global level. It's not an India problem, by the way. I spend time in other countries as well. It's a very similar thing. In fact, the deal is even bigger in some other countries. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. I'll pass it on back to the host.